Welcome to Brainstorms, our July podcast, which is really an exciting one because we have a birthday celebration today. We are celebrating the 250th birthday of our nation. And I had to pick a very special guest for this because we have with us a gentleman who knows everything from the beginning of our nation till now and into the future. I'll introduce him in just a moment. We are Brainstorms. We are the podcast for our veterans from the global war on terror who are struggling with the signature wound of these wars, primarily untreated or undertreated traumatic brain injury. But then we have to include their families, and we have to include their friends and neighbors, and we have to include the community. And today, because it's our birthday, we're including the whole nation. So thank you all so much for joining us. We're here in our wonderful Sycamore Studios, Plain City, Ohio. We are brought to you by a very generous grant from the June and Fred McMurray Foundation in Los Angeles, and we're so thankful to them for this opportunity. So today I have with me a very special guest. He's been my mentor, my leader, my friend, a friend of Resurrecting Lives Foundation since our inception. Colonel David Williamson is an amazing human being. I'm trying to contain my excitement for having him here for our birthday celebration, but he knows all of the history, as I've already mentioned. So, Colonel Williamson, no matter where he's been, in the Air Force as a combat commander for the Minutemen, and there's a special kind of annotation from underground to airborne. So I think that means that he covers everything from the core of the earth to the heavens. And I've actually been a witness to seeing him be able to do that. He's been at the Pentagon. When he came back to civilian world, and he's going to talk a little bit about his coming back and how he knows how to help others back. He again became a leader, whether it was a leader at a community college in his spare time, at a high school in his spare time, at the Dublin Rotary, and many different businesses that he's led, as well as a $3 billion company. So I just have to say that I'm going to let him start talking. I should be a little bit quieter, and I want to welcome the United States of America to Colonel David Williamson. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, it's a real pleasure for me to be here. I've always been a big fan of our Resurrecting Lives and the programs that you put together and that you lead,
yes,
as well as anybody I've ever seen do, and enthusiastically as I've ever seen anybody do. And so sometimes it's hard for me to catch up to you. What are you talking about?
I don't think that's true. I think I do lead enthusiastically, but not strategically. Oh. And you will attest to that.
Well, yes, I will.
Exactly. That's why I rely on people like you to do the strategies to get us there. For those of us in the audience that may not know exactly what we're saying, like I come up with these, like, we're going to change the world. Right now, with our book that's coming out, we're going to be touching on it a little bit too, Guarding Our Guardians. We want to change the nomenclature. We want our veterans to be known to the United States of America for the next 250 years as being our guardians. And what would you think to that, Colonel?
Amen.
Oh, really?
I can't think of a better entry into the next 250 years than to base it on what we've done so far. And with a lot of the folks that have been involved in getting us to this point.
Correct.
And I think that it's important that we pick up and carry the ball from this point forward. But you need a transition. And so transition is what you're focused on, and I can't think of a better program to do that.
Well, thank you so much. Well, tell us a little bit about your military history, because, I mean, every time I talk to you, and I talk to you frequently because you kind of keep me in line and direct me, I learned something else. Like, I do know that you're a natural-born leader. I don't know when you noticed that in your life. I mean, obviously, everybody else has noticed that. When did you first notice that?
I can't say that I've ever noticed it. It's just innate. You take any time that you have an opportunity to be in a leadership position, you learn. And through the years, from the time I was a newspaper boy delivering 100 Washington Posts early in the morning to going through college and the fraternity and then coming on active duty, I mean, everywhere along the way, you learn.
Yes.
And if you are a good learner, you'll be successful.
Yes. I think some of your learner skills are your incredible listening skills. You know, for those members of the audience, I've seen you at meetings where all of us are kind of rambling around the table, and you sit there and you listen, and they say, well, what do you think, Colonel Williamson? And in 2 sentences, you sum up the last hour. I mean, that is such a gift to us. Mm-hmm. It's a gift to us. How would you sum up the 250 years of our nation's welcoming our guardians, our mm-hmm. veterans, back to civilian world? What do you think of that? Because I know you're a historian.
We haven't done a very good job of it, in my opinion. Yeah. We've accepted it, but we've never done anything to enhance it, very to true. Provide it with a better pathway, mm-hmm. if you will.
Right.
Most veterans, when they leave the service and fill out a resume,
okay.
I was telling your producer earlier, it wears combat boots because they use terminology, they use phrases, they use experiences that are unique to their job, but that nobody outside that job would potentially understand exactly what they had to do to achieve the skill levels that they achieved and to be successful in the military. And so it's important that we do a better job, yes. I think, of not only taking the good training they get, but right. then utilizing the skills that they obtain in the military in their next career field.
It was really interesting when we were talking beforehand, and I used the same message. You know, I believe that the civilian world doesn't know what our guardians, what our military, what our people actually boots on the ground do. Mm-hmm. And I thought you had the most amazing comeback where you said, well, they have knowledge of it. They just don't have understanding of it.
Exactly.
Tell me what you meant by that, because that was very...
Everybody probably in their family somewhere has had a member that's been in the military.
Okay, yes.
But it's a very, very small percentage. It's a very, very small percentage of our national population that goes into the military. It's probably a very, very small percentage of families, members that go into the military. My dad was the oldest of 12.
Oh, okay.
And 8 boys and 4 girls. Of the 8 boys, 7 of them served in the military.
Oh, really?
In various branches, Air Force and Army primarily.
Okay.
And I think that was probably the exception more than the rule. Earlier in our nation's history, we probably had more people that were willing to join the service.
Correct, yes.
But then we went from a mandatory service to an all-volunteer service. Mm-hmm. And that changed the entire character of how the military recruits and how they develop programs to train and then retain. They focus on retaining the skills that they put a lot of money into, but then knowing that some of them are going to leave the military and go back to the private sector. So it's a cycle that we have to work on and be prepared to invest in properly, both time and resources and funds.
And we haven't really done that throughout the years. You know, when you had me look up some of the things, I mean, going back to the Revolutionary War, the birth, mm-hmm. So many of those, and I think Brian Kilmeade wrote that mm-hmm. book about, so many of them ended up in bankruptcy, imprisoned because mm-hmm. of bankruptcy. Their families left them, died a very early death, earlier than the rest around them. I mean, there's always been that, thank you for your servicing, but then turn your back on them. We can't afford to do that, as you're saying right now.
Well, we shouldn't. I mean, the issue is what military folks give of their lifetime.
Yes.
Some of them career, some of them are just a couple short years in enlistment, but they were there. Yeah. And so we need to recognize that and reward them for their service, because they definitely don't get rewarded while they're in the service, because it's not anything you're going to make a lot of money out of or anything like that. So that's where we need to put some emphasis, I think.
So I think when we originally met and started talking way back in the beginning of RLF, Resurrecting Life Foundation, it was a decade and a half ago almost now. And I think at that point in time, you quoted that 3.2% of the country had served, but now it's down to, around 2.2%. And people who are volunteering represent less than 1%. Okay, in the midst of that, we're seeing a lot of conflict all over the globe. So if we don't do something, we, the civilian world, are saying no to our obligation to make sure that our nation is defended and remains safe.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, it's an investment.
Yeah, that's a great way to say it. That's a great way.
In our military, and we're a resource within that investment that we have to take care of and make sure that it is properly treated, both pre, during, and after their service.
And that is a lot, because once they get into service, in our civilian world, my civilian world, we don't know what happens there, And I've heard a lot from hundreds, close to 1,000 veterans from their experiences. And it's not something that I even think the general populace would believe or be able to comprehend. It just is so much. When they come back, we then turn everything onto them. Say, you tell us how you're going to fit in. And you say, that's not the great way to do that. We need to be listeners as well. Expound on that, Colonel.
We need to be both listeners, planners, and I would say supporters of each and every phase of that transition from the military to the private sector, either as at the end of an enlistment or at the end of a career. Both of those are going to be totally different, because at the end of an enlistment, they're just getting started in their life, career opportunities and things like that. And you want to make sure that the skills and the experiences and the successes they had in the military are going to be able to be directly transferable to that private sector skill that's going to help them look for and find that ideal job that matches those skills and experiences. So I think that's where we need to focus, is put our focus on how do we help them with understanding whether they're a new entrant to the career field or they're somebody who's finished one career and is looking to start a second career. What career are you going to pursue? How are you going to pursue it? What are you going to use as the materials to base your search for that I call it the ideal job. I mean, anybody can get just a job when they leave the service. But they may or may not be happy in that job. They may or may not get any positive feedback or anything from that job because it was just that. It was a job. What I like to do is when I talk to veterans is say, let's focus on helping you find that ideal job for you, one that will specifically take advantage of your knowledge, your skills, your abilities, your successes, and the times when you have had non-successes, I'll call them.
Okay,
but did you learn anything from that time
That's a really good
that you
point.
can apply to where you want to go and what you want to do when you leave the service? So it's important that we get that focus on that transition of being able to identify who you are, what do you want, where do you want to go, what do you want to do, how do you sell yourself, and realizing that the job search process you're about to enter can have an opportunity for you to get a job, but that's not what we want. We want that ideal job where your skills match, your experiences match, your interests match, and you're willing to go to work every day, and you're wanting to go to work every day, and you be a part of an organization that does similar things to what you've been used to doing.
That's what I say. You've been used to that.
And uses those skills. And as a result of that, if you're not focused on that ideal job, you may miss it. You may not even find it because you're looking in the wrong place, or you just took the job because you wanted a job.
You know, your amazing skill to listen, and not just to listen, to comprehend, is one of the things I admire most about you. When you're talking about talking to the veteran, trying to tweeze that out, I don't know of any HR department that I've ever worked with that has done that. And you not only have the great knowledge firsthand, but you are also, and one of the things I knew about you from the first time you open your mouth is you are fearless. Like, tell me anything. tell me anything, and we'll have a plan by the time we're done with this discussion. And it's a two-way discussion, something that is almost unheard of here at our nation's 250th birthday, right? I mean, that's almost unheard of. So you've had a couple instances where you've actually done this. You've done this through kind of your teaching listening skills at Columbus Community College, was it?
Right.
Okay. And then also at a company 40 plus. So tell us a little bit about those, because you are that unique connector. And there needs to be more of you, Colonel, quite frankly. Or there needs to be a way to free up HR departments into becoming much less fearful than they are of making a mistake.
Yeah, and I think that's right. But I found that when I retired from active duty after 28 years in the military, was unsure what I wanted to do, but I found that I needed to be a little bit more focused on where do I want to go and what did I want to do and how did I want to use the skills I achieved throughout my career in the service. And so I started the work at Columbus State University in a group called Business and Industry Training Division, where you matched business needs. For example, we had companies that were looking, this was back in the days when computers were first being introduced on a larger scale through businesses and stuff like that. But a lot of people didn't know how to use them. So we had computer training labs at Columbus State that we brought people from companies in under contract, and we trained them to use the computers.
Okay.
So then we used college resources then to help the businesses and industries in the greater Columbus area obtain the level of skills and knowledge about computers and things like that. We had leadership courses that we trained folks on. We had business courses so that if you took a job in an industry where you had little experience in handling invoices or handling documentation or business matters or things like a CPA would want to or use or something like that. We had a course that would use college resources to help train local companies and representatives and employees of local companies in those skills. So that's when I noticed that it was a skill-based economy that we were needing to focus on, not necessarily job-based.
That's I've never heard that before, except through you.
Yeah. And
skill-based, not
job-based.
That's a huge difference, And in my experience, working with employers, seeing our veterans, they're only interested in a job. I mean, by and large, I know there's some exceptions, but this is the job you did. You did logistics in the military. Okay, we don't have any logistics jobs here. Well, maybe that individual.
Actually, they do. They just didn't know to call it logistics.
But listen to the veteran; they'll be able to tell you that, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And what we found is that when you focus on skills, we worked with employers actually to say, what is it that you need in an individual? What skill set do you need in an individual to best do this job for your company? And they say, well, they got to be good in math. They got to be good in use of their hands, or they have to be able to use a computer, or they have to be able to do X, Y, or Z. So once we then we looked at the people that we had that were eligible coming through the system and saying, do you have this skill set? Well, some of them thought they did, some of them didn't know, but nobody had gone through the effort of trying to figure out what skill set they actually have. They knew what jobs they did, but they didn't know and understand exactly what skills they had to be successful in those jobs. So we developed a kind of a program at 40 Plus that was focused on identifying skill sets and then marketing skill sets to specific jobs that required those skills. So when you were in the job search process, you weren't going and interviewing with a company that had little or no use for your skill set, but you were sent there by your friend because John said, I know somebody over here if you want an interview at XYZ company. And when you get there, and it was not a very good interview because you had no common interest, no common basis. Your skill sets that they were looking for were not a skill set that you have. So you got to be able to identify and document that skill set you have as you, at the point you're getting ready to leave the service,
Okay.
so that you can then focus your job search on positions that have that skill need, and it's a one-for-one match.
So who tells you as you're leaving the military what your skill set is?
Unfortunately, nobody does.
That's what
now.
I was
and
worried.
that was
yes.
one of the things we found that we needed to do at 40 Plus,
Okay.
is to help them identify. We went through a process which said, okay, I want you to take, for example, your last 3 jobs,
Okay.
the most current 3 jobs. And I want you to go and write down everything you did, We called it the STAR process.
Okay.
Situation, task, action, and result. So you write down everything you did in a job, and what you did to make that job be successful, what requirements were in that job, and what you needed to be successful, and then what were the results. And so that's in that STAR statement. You said, okay, I was the administrative assistant to the base commander.
Okay.
And in that job, I answered the phone, I prepared correspondence, I filed correspondence, I ushered people in and out of the office, all of those tasks you did. And then I said, take that STAR statement and do a one-word description of the skill that you used to be successful in that job. And if you find then you find as you go down and list all these scars, and as you list all these one-word skill sets, you say, well, it looks like most of the time I was doing good organization skills, or I was doing good telephone skills, or I was doing good, let's say, writing skills,
right.
or I was good with communicating with people, or something like that.
Big, huge one.
So that said, over time, in those last 3 jobs, here are the skill areas. So once an individual has an idea of what skill set they want to market in a job search, they're much better positioned to say, what skills do you need in your position? And you do a one-for-one match and saying, okay, if I have 9 out of 10 of the skills that you're looking for, that's an ideal job for me. That's a job that I can do very well. And I need to be able to sell myself to do that job.
Right. And that's something that our vets, they're so quiet. They say, they really don't, and I say, no, you're going to have to. Now, tell me a little bit about 40 Plus. Was that a group of volunteers like yourself? Was that leaders from the community? How did that come?
It was both an organization of job seekers who were usually at the management, mid-management level.
Okay.
And then it was also volunteers. Folks that wanted to assist in people in the jobs. They were retirees, things of that nature. And so we found that combination gave us a steady core of instructors and people to help teach the members of the organization as they came through. And so by focusing then on that job search process based on knowledge and skills, and not only knowledge of it, but documented skill sets, it gave them a much better baseline upon which to prepare their resume, to prepare their jobs. And I always said that's part 1 of the process.
Yes, okay.
Part 2 is, okay, how now do I package myself so that I can go ahead and market this product called me in this very competitive market out there? So you would go ahead, and once you had your skill sets identified, you could adapt the resume form of the many resume forms out there that best met, showing what skill sets you have. Because employers, as you know, and probably have been told, employers, HR people in particular, when they post a position, they look at a resume and say, what can they do? Have they done anything like one thing?
Right.
And so they're looking at, these are what I'm looking for. And if they look at a resume, but it's not obvious of what that person has a skill, it goes into the also ran trash can. Right. So they try to pick the best fit. Well, if you got a skill-based resume and it says they want these skills and here's my skills, and they can match one for you, have a much better chance of getting an interview in a position that's probably suited for you because of your background, skills, experience that you have identified and documented.
Right, because I don't understand, and I've been in occupational medicine almost my whole career. I don't understand what what my MOS was. What I got, the military occupational specialty. I don't know what that is either. And I mean, I've been with them, but there isn't that willingness to listen. And in the prologue of our book, which was so generously written by the 9th Secretary of the VA, Dr. David Shulka, and he said, being those people who help our guardians assimilate in the civilian is not charity. It's an obligation. It's an obligation back to them and to our country to save those skills that you're talking about.
Exactly.
That have served us so well in the extreme circumstances. If you can do all of that in the middle of an air raid,
That's right.
I think you can do it in the middle of a child screaming in the ER. You know what I mean?
And I think, and you and I have talked about, employers quite often are one of two types. The first type is they love the military and they understand that the military veteran has a lot of skills and experience that they could, positive skills and experience that they can bring to the job, and they're open to recruitment and selection of veterans. Then you also have the other side, which unfortunately is afraid of the military because they think everybody was a combat infantryman with a gun happy and shoot 'em up attitude.
Isn't that true?
And the like. And so it's unfortunate that they see it in one of either black or white, when in reality it's a lot in between. Just like any industry, you've got people that are on the front line doing the hard work, and you've got people up in the management office, and you've got a whole lot of people in between. Well, there's a whole lot of people in between in the military too that are not necessarily gun-toting or warmongering or things like that. They are administrative people, they're communications people, they're logistics person, they're personnel, they're cooks, they're servicemen, they're transporters, whatever. Just a whole range of that represent skill sets that are out there within the military, and it's just a matter of making sure that the public knows and understands that not everybody was a combat infantryman, but some of us were the type of military service member that did same things that any company official would do.
Only under much more adverse circumstances.
Very much so.
And failure was not an option. I mean, that's the truth. and let me tell you, we've had several of our veterans who have been in combat who have been here at our podcast and talked about their experiences. Dave Hartman being one of them from Performance Honda, who trains veterans how you become a technician of a car today. Because just to your point, the computer skills, the ability to diagnose, and then to treat. I mean, to me, I consider it a medical skill. You've got your patient's not talking at all. You've got to work out. And he's done an amazing job. You know what? Because like you, he listens. He realizes that there's been so many other things that these young men and women had to learn to do. I always ask them too, did you like your job in the military? Because many times I hated it. And that's all they're telling me I can do. And I didn't like it. I thought, I don't know anything about military recruitment, but I know that almost 95% of the men and women I've talked to were promised the job they said they wanted when they went into, and about 5 to 10% got that job.
Unfortunately, it's a numbers game on occasion. What is the need versus what's available, and everybody understands when you join the military, that's a risk, not a risk, but that's a potential.
Correct.
For when you go in, because they're going to use you where they need you.
Right.
And they're going to train you and they're going to teach you, and you're going to be good at what you do. Exactly.
But I think, to your point, on the civilian world, we don't have any of that understanding. There's not that understanding. And like I said, in the heyday when we got started, and Dublin Rotary was helping us with our employment project, and let me tell you, your members at the Dublin Rotary were phenomenal. I mean, just phenomenal. That kind of, come on in, we got this for you, and everything was successful to the nth degree. I mean, seriously. Whereas they were really helpful for everyone of the companies I spoke to with, the Dublin Rotary, there were 10 over here that, she's as crazy as there. I mean, what are you talking about? I said, no, I mean, because when I get excited about it, when I get almost desperate about it, like, pay attention to what they're saying. You're not paying attention to what they're saying. And I talk to some of these young men and women for hours on end, and I am amazed at their survival skills without a cell phone, without calling their parents, without having a buddy come pick them up and get them out of trouble. Do you know what I mean? I mean, this is something that I think we need to take much more seriously beginning now, beginning on our 250th birthday and going forward, because at the 251st, we ought to be doing a better job at this. How do local communities do that? You kind of jumped in and did this. Command Sergeant Major Hall, who was General McChrystal's Command Sergeant Major, started the Three Rangers Foundation. Just to your point, I mean, sitting across here talking to you is sitting across talking to him. It's like, as commanders, as people who were in charge of those underneath you, you seem to have that advocacy for them afterwards, as much as you did during that time. How does your voice gets transferred to the companies of today?
Through a lot of work. It takes dedication. It takes commitment. It takes enthusiasm. I've been an advocate for veterans all along for several reasons, but primarily because I've been around veterans all my life, and I see what veterans contribute everywhere they go. And I'm saying sometimes it's a lack of knowledge on the part of the civilian private sector as to what benefit bringing a veteran into the organization can provide.
Exactly.
Versus if you're looking for somebody who, for a position, and you know what you're wanting, if you look at a veteran, you know you're going to get commitment, you're going to get involvement, you're going to get showing up for work every day, you're going to get 1,050% out of that individual during the workday, and you're going to he's going to make sure that the company is successful because he buys into the company.
Exactly.
He or she buys into the company because that's what they're used to. With that, having had that benefit or that background in the military, where you are unit focused, mission focused, and know and understand it's your job, what your job is, and what your job is in relation to the whole picture. So that's what a veteran brings to you when they come in, is that background, and that's what we have to continue to emphasize. Right. What I did with Rotary was to start a program where, for example, just at every Friday meeting, we have a veteran in our organization lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Just by saying, it doesn't need to be who wants to lead the pledge this week. It's always been somebody who's been there. And the Rotary Club knows.
They do.
They know what leading the Pledge of Allegiance really means.
Right.
And so I took that same approach and requested our district, our Rotary district, which covers 52 clubs in southeast Ohio, from Columbus to east to the border. 52. 52 clubs. Wow. And I'm saying we need to make sure that all the clubs know and understand that we have veterans among us.
Yeah. I think we need you to speak at the national. You've talked at the national meetings before, and you every year that I've seen you preparing to go, you want to bring this message. And I think maybe the 250th birthday year would be a good year to do it. Again, my father was a World War II vet and a Rotarian. Okay. And he somehow, when I was in high school, got me to be the first woman, to speak at the Rotary. And I don't even quite remember what I spoke at. But just being there, just being there with a group of people who were attentive, who were intelligent, who came up and offered some ideas. I think I was, where is the future going for us? I was getting ready to graduate from high school, and back then it was, my age, the computers. Where are we going? To your point that you talked about, because we could see it was going to be something. I could see it would be something that would not be easy for me. You know? I mean, what are we going to do? But I mean, they embrace that. I think we need to do that, and I think you're the person to do that. For instance, we have offices, Resurrecting Lives, based here in Dublin, Ohio, but also we have an office in San Diego. And to your point, 2 years ago, I took all of your information about our Veterans Standing Together Across America plan, there, and everybody was listening. So whatever it takes, we as a civilian world have 99% of the resources that are out there. Once a veteran gets discharged, healthcare, education, employment, we've got the resources. Were we kept in the dark, or did we choose to be in the dark? And I think it was a little bit of both. And I think now is the time that we all need to start having those conversations, because our nation depends on that 1% that is so willing to volunteer their lives for our freedoms. They are our guardians, and it is our responsibility to guard them when they come back. And I don't mean, wrapping things around them. I'm talking about saying, okay, here's your job. Let me show you the ropes at this particular company. Just to your point, here's the skills you had. Let me show you what we can do here, and let me show you how to stand up for yourself. Because particularly in the Army, where it's, order carried out. It's not like they're taught to think for themselves, and this may be the first time since they weren't taught to think for themselves in high school. We know that, not in their families, not at 18. You're still being kind of talked to about what you could or could not do with the car, with this, that. So I think that we need to, whatever way that you can think of doing this, you need to implement it. And I think starting with Rotary service above self, this is the 1% of the nation that took that totally to heart, right? The 1%. And that's really kind of scary to me.
And that's one of the reasons I felt that being a member of Rotary helped our club, and I approached the district with the proposal to start the Veterans Affairs Committee at the district level to communicate the information out to all these communities that these clubs serve. So it was a communications conduit primarily, but it was a message conduit also. Exactly what you're saying.
Oh, you were amazing.
And the point being that information and education go hand in hand. You can't educate if you don't have the information.
Right.
So you have to develop the information. So we need to do a better job of packaging our information so that it is readily communicated to the. I think most people have an appreciation for veterans. They just don't have a knowledge about what being a veteran really means.
No, they don't. They also, I started while I knew I was going to be kind of working on this book, and talk about, I mean, seriously, the only ability that I have, that I will admit that I have, is tenacity. Yes. Because a lesser person.
I'll roger that.
Even to the point, my brother always calls me like a ferret. He goes, you're kind of you just keep biting at the heels until somebody keeps trying to shake you off, and you just come right back. I go, but the truth of the matter is we need to do a better job with this. Now, Ohio is great. We are a small state, kind of geographically. We can get any place in Ohio and usually back in a day. And that's why I think what you've done here at the 5th largest veterans population state is enormous, With our book, Guarding Our Guardians, guaranteeing America's guardians, veterans, a future from deployment to employment, we are targeting 10 states, the top 10 states for veterans population, because if we do that, you actually reach 78% of the veterans, I mean,
large portion, that's right.
I know. And that's where I think we need to start and then filter it out through there. So what you've done in Ohio is phenomenal. You're very well known now in Southern California. and I'm getting ready to go back there. We're actually having our book launch there on May 20th. And we're very thankful that Mayor Gloria, it's a city with 250,000 military or veterans.
They're mostly Navy, but that's okay.
Yeah, I do. were going to say something there. Right. But see, the Navy and Marines, they go kind of hand in hand.
Yeah.
I learned that. So, they
can't do without them. Can't
exactly.
do without them.
And what he is declaring that day, the day of the launch, 20th, the proclamation is today is officially Guarding Our Guardians Day.
Excellent.
And what we need to do is to get that feeling, that commitment out there to at least the 10 most veteran populous states in the United States this year, before the end of this year, before we turn around and celebrate the 251st birthday. We really do need to do that. What other words of wisdom do you have maybe for our guardians and their families coming out? Because I know that they're so quiet. They internalize so much. And I know that's kind of a strange word, but, they don't really talk about themselves. They don't talk about what happened. And that's good. But you can talk about your protective skills. We're all willing to celebrate that. As you know, our tagline at Resurrecting Lives is resurrect a hero, strengthen our nation. Because we really do believe. And right now, we need to do both. We have 5 times the number of our young veterans dying by their own lives every year as died in combat. We need to do something. That's on us. That's not on them. That's on us. That's on that transition process that I will tell you, quite frankly, my stupid brain injury that was putting up Christmas decorations, I couldn't navigate it by myself, not at that time. And yet we expect them to when the last thing that they knew, they were in high school. I mean, it's just amazing. So I think that you're so helpful with saying, no, this is something that everybody has to work on. You go to the high schools, right? I mean, you go to Dublin high schools.
I go to Dublin High School, has a program called the Purple Star Club.
Okay.
The Purple Star Club was designed to help high school students get a better understanding of veteran service, the issues surrounding veterans following their service, completion of service. And this program they have is tremendous. They send out birthday cards to each veteran on their birthday. They send out cards during the course of the year, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, the holidays. They have ice cream socials. They have veteran specials before ball games, basketball, football, baseball, where they introduce veterans, give them a 50-yard line seat or right on the floor. I mean,
that's huge.
But it's an effort to
Community.
bring the kids in so they have a better understanding of who a veteran is and why we hold them in this status of honor that we do for what they have done and the commitment that they have made in the past. Most of them.
Correct.
I know I have 2 programs over there that I take my uniform jacket. And,
okay.
And I explain, I says, what is this? I show them. And they say, it's a uniform jacket. And I said, yeah, but it's really a book. And it has a story to tell if you know how to read it. And then I point out whether you're an officer or enlisted, what your specialty was through your badges, what your rank is, what your area of service was through the ribbons, and so forth. So I say, as you look at this, each and every part of the uniform, it tells a story.
Oh, I've never heard that. That's cool.
It gives you a snapshot of exactly who this individual was, where he's been, what he's done, he or she.
Yes, exactly.
I should say. And as a result of that, when you see a veteran and you see a uniform, if you're green, you know he's Army. If it's blue, Navy blue, you know it's Navy. If it's Air Force blue, it's the blue Air Force, silver and blue. And if it's Marine Corps, it's red, white, and blue.
Yeah.
And so you can tell right away what branch they are in, so you have an idea of what they did. Right. But then the uniform really tells the rest of the story.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I start out the night with maybe 2 or 3 students at a table and usually by the end of the night, I've got them standing around 2 and 3 deep as I go through the story because the word gets around. That's an interesting approach.
And that is interesting.
But it's education. That goes back to our first point. You have to educate the public as to exactly what military service is, what it means, and who the people are that join the military and what they do and what they are looking for if they decide to come out at the end of an enlistment or if they enter their career. Right. It makes no difference. we owe them, and we need to work with them to try to help them find that ideal job that they can do from that point in time on. Those that are capable. If you have those that are medically retired or thing, then we still have the VA system and everything to help them.
Correct. But I really like this. So in the communities, you're talking about actually building a sense of community. I talk to, when I have a vet that's got an issue someplace else, because as I've told you, my cell phone, I've heard from veterans from 29 states. Now, let me tell you, veterans from 29 states calling this old lady in the Midwest. They've been down the road, you know what I mean? And I'll listen to them for as long as they want to talk. But I said, I can really educate the healthcare providers because I've been there, because I've been in the ER, because I know TBI, because I had my own, and I know that what we read in the textbooks is not necessarily the best way out, okay? But we have that. We have employers that need to do the same thing. I will call them and I'll say, do you belong to a church, Well, no, not really. What's nearest you? Well, can you walk to one? You give me the name. I said, you get on your smartphone, find out the one, and I'll talk to, and I have found that, Roman Catholic, I always want to go say priests, but all clergy people. As a matter of fact, a lot of times I'm really happy that Pope Leo's there. Hopefully the Catholic Church will be a little bit more inclusive than they've been. But there's so many of them. Come on down. Well, it's, midnight. Come now, I'll be done, I'm getting up. I'm going to go. I mean, it just is amazing. I think that it's a two-way street. We need our guardians and their families to let the community know, and the community needs to be it's our turn to then answer the call, right?
Well, I think I looked at your 3 points. Health care is important.
Yes.
Education is important, and employment is important. I would say of the three, education is probably the greatest need right now, and that's getting people to know and understand what veteran service, military service, and everything is like, and what it does for those individuals while they're in the service for the country.
Yeah.
So at the end of that service, whether it's in short time or long term, where we can continue to then support them for what they've done over time. But knowing and understanding, I work with the Ohio Veteran Services Commission also.
Okay.
And the state of Ohio does an excellent job in making veteran services available.
Okay.
Services available to veterans based on need.
Okay.
And so I think that's letting sure the citizens of Ohio know that we have that need. And that's the one thing that's the education part of it.
See, you educate me every time because you saw me look. You said, I think I was about the most important one is health care, that's because if you have a battered brain, you can't learn. I go, oh, wait a minute. He's looking at the whole picture. Yeah. The veterans aren't the only ones who need to be educated.
Absolutely.
This 99%, yeah. I really, I learned something every time I talk to you. And you've been so generous with your time for our veterans from Resurrecting Lives Foundation, from Chief Paisano, who's saying, I have to say hello to you from San Diego. He goes, you tell him I've got another big project I'm going to be talking to him about.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See that.
Lady Liberty to celebrate the 250th
That's
birthday.
Fantastic.
And I think we need to go forward from this July 4th on and make sure that at least there are several people in each community who will answer this call when a veteran comes back. And your footprint is so large. Every time we bring up, high schools. I've been to colleges. It just is amazing. I can see that you have what they talk about, that Air Force view, that 10,000 foot view down.
That's a benefit.
And you look at that space and you go, I can cover that. Any parting words that you have for our mainly civilian audience? We have more civilians watching. What they can do or what you would direct them, Colonel?
Well, I think stay active and stay involved. Okay. In getting more of your neighbors, your friends, and so forth to know and understand what you, like in Resurrecting Lives, and all are doing to help the veterans, because it ain't free. We're a free country, but it ain't free.
particularly for our guardians.
Yeah.
There are a lot of freedoms that they lack when they come back.
That's right.
And we're going to change that in year 251. That's for sure.
Let's hope. And let's work on it. And I think I like that getting the word out, getting information out. It's something that we need to do a better job of, in my vote.
Well, bless your heart for doing it. You come from a military family, but you also have a military family that you and your wife Judy have raised. So we are indebted to you all for multiple generations, for sure. And I just have to say personally, and I tried practicing this last night, and I get choked up every time I do it. But you literally were the first person by offering me to come to Dublin Rotary, who I gave this spiel in about rapid fire, and you got up and you said, well, thank you for being there. So to sum up, and you gave that bullet point 1, bullet point 2, bullet point 3, and they sat down, and then you've been with us ever since. And you don't know how much I appreciated that. And the more I kept reading about you, the more I appreciated it. I cannot believe that man even listened to me, let alone helped us out. You have helped us out at every turn. Because again, I get very enthusiastic, but are not a strategist.
Well, I'm going to leave with you. It's a presentation I used to give on veterans workforce development.
Oh, bless
the
you.
3-step job approach
Okay.
for veterans. So I spoke about it earlier. It's about the process is learning the product, which is you.
Okay,
and
right.
that's identifying the skill sets, documenting the skill sets, the process itself that you have to go through to find that ideal job.
Yes.
And then the strategy that you need to have when you're actually physically out in work environment,
Right.
looking for networking, doing all the right things to find that ideal job that matches skill sets with what the employer's looking for. This is a process that I found to be very successful for the folks that I've worked with, including, believe it or not, high school seniors.
Oh, yeah. Well, it becomes important to them, for sure.
And so I would encourage you to just, if anybody would like to get a copy, to get in touch with you, and I'd be happy to send them a copy and talk to them about.
I really like that. Can you change this from Defenders of Freedom to could we put
Guardians?
Another circle, Guardians of Freedom?
I'll put the cover of the book on there. That's what I'll do.
That'd be great. That would be great. I so appreciate you. This has been so helpful. Anything else you want to say before I sign off?
No, I thank you just for having me in. Everything. I think a lot of people may not say this, but you do a tremendous job in helping to identify veterans' needs. Yeah. And from the very time we first got together, as you mentioned,
yes.
I've always found your enthusiasm and your commitment, and anytime people want to call you, they can call you. They have.
Yeah, they have.
But you're amazing. You're an amazing lady yourself, and I thank you for what you've done and what you're committed to, because these people out there need your help. Yeah. And you're willing to do it. So thank you.
Think we have to thank
on
the
behalf
man
of
upstairs.
Veterans, thank you.
We have to thank the man upstairs, because what he said, he goes, I got to train her to do this. Head brick wall. Okay. Now I'm going to rewire your brain so you pay attention. So
just hit it once or twice, you'll learn.
Exactly. That worked. Oh, golly. Well, listen, we thank our wonderful audience. I hope you all have a very wonderful 250th birthday celebration, but that you also have some time around your picnic table before or after the fireworks to talk to your friends, your neighbors, your family about what are you going to do this year specifically to help our nation get through 251. And I think that if you include that, you're going to have to say, you've got to bring the Guardians in. We've got to help them transform our country to be as service-oriented as they are. Thank you all so much. We'll see you again in August.
If you are thinking about harming yourself or attempting suicide, tell someone who can help right away. Call 911 for emergency services. Go to the nearest hospital emergency room. Call or text 988 to connect with the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. This podcast is made possible thanks to a grant from the Fred and June McMurray Foundation, and it's produced by the Resurrecting Lives Foundation at the Sycamore Studio. Music is written, performed, and graciously provided by Tim Beckley. Remember, when you work toward brain injury recovery, it is best to journey with a friend and keep your gait steady and your spirit strong. Finally, always seek shelter from your storm.
Baghdad, the Basra, the boss in the Bakersfield. The hottest battle they ever fought is raging inside of me. My brain has been battered, scrambled and rattled, and no one knows what's going on